Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. How are you guys doing today? It's Sunday. It's the last day of our weekend, and we're getting ready to start the week, right? How are you doing today? How are you feeling? How's everything going? How's your day? My day's been pretty good. It's been good. Um, as usual, in my free time, I usually ponder the different cases. Um, I just have so many thoughts. But today I'm going to talk about missing people. You know, before I get into the cases in Ohio and what's been going on in Ohio, I just want to kind of flush something out. When I sit back and I have my, time to myself, and I'm able to really brainstorm some of these ideas, some of the cases, I really think about why is something going on. Now I have my comments up. You can put a comment if you like, and I'll share it with everyone. But specifically, why do people go missing? When I think about it, if I just think about it right now, and I think about people having routines, what they do every day, what they do on a weekly basis, kind of their schedule, their commitments, if they have work, if they have school, if they have children, all of the things that they have that they're doing, what happens when a person disappears? They just go missing. Now, for the purposes of the content today in this video, I'm focusing in on children. And I think it's important that we have a special designation for kids because a child going missing is completely different to me when a child goes missing versus an adult. I'm not going to talk about an adult going missing today. If you guys want to, we can have those conversations um, at another time. But more particularly, adults make their decisions. They make plans, they change how they feel, and they do what they want. And nobody is so concerned because they're of legal age to do that. If someone never returns, if they walk away from their job, if they leave their spouse, if they abandon their child, technically they're of age where there's not a ton that law enforcement can do unless there's some avenue that leads to foul play or there are some tips or something that's indicating that something else is operating in that situation. But for the last two videos and this video, my focus is on missing children. I always wonder, do people really think about why kids go missing? Hi, Rocco. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm speaking about missing kids today. Sebastian Rogers? No, I haven't heard about Sebastian Rogers. Put something in the comment. Was he a missing child? What happened to him? While you do that, I want to finish this thought. I want people to really start thinking about, you know, Why the hell am I talking about missing kids in Ohio, right? The reason that it struck me when I saw it because of the number. I do understand that kids, particularly, I won't say older kids, but we'll say teenagers, they may be going through some things. They may meet somebody online. They may have a love interest, boyfriend, girlfriend. They may be having some emotional things going on with their hormones. They can have a fight with their parents. They can have issues at school, and they may fall into the category of a runaway where they decide, hey, I'm leaving. I'm taking some items and I'm leaving home and I'm headed somewhere. That is not what that's not what these videos have been about, the first two and now this one. When I saw the number of missing kids in Ohio, this was about a year ago, it was kind of like, what's going on in Ohio? And then if you look at the demographic overall, these may be in areas where you're going to have some economic depression. You may have more minorities. These are not um, kids that are just running away. Some of these kids, I think, potentially and possibly could have been taken. So to bring this all together, why would someone take a child, a minor? Um, when I think about categories, I think about sex trafficking. That's a really big one. Um, I do feel sometimes if we want to say there is a market for body parts and organs, um, in that area of Ohio, which would be close to the border of Canada, um, there may be some information or cases where people have been uh, taken, kidnapped for their organs. Um, I also feel that kids can be targeted for labor. If you want to call it slave labor, or you can threaten a child, you can kind of control a child, you can transport a child. And why is this all important, right? If you are a minor, you don't have to have any identity. You don't have to have a ID. You don't have to have a license. More than likely, you won't have those things. So if your name is changed, if someone asks you your identity, you can just lie because there's nothing really forcing you to be truthful. Or if you're being forced to say that you're someone else, no one would really be able to uncover or discover that, because if you're taken to a different area or if you're taken out of state and transported, you can just go under another alias, because if you're youthful, meaning if you look like a child, a teenager, you speak like a child, a teenager, no one will really question that. And I think that's where the focus comes in for me, that there are predators, there are people, there are organized groups that have decided that some of the most vulnerable, which would be our youthful, teenage like kids and younger, are easily taken, and their identity can be changed. They can be transported, their name can be changed, etc. And again, I'm not talking about runaways, because I know that's a real problem also. But these numbers that were in the state of Ohio, they were very high. There was not a lot of formality with the individual cities and the state working together for disseminating these missing person alerts, information, details, pictures of the missing children. So I am hoping that that has improved as we fast forward. I'm hoping that enough attention has been highlighted to get some resources in the state of Ohio in particular. This could be something nationwide, but at the time, looking back a year ago, it was in the state of Ohio. And I had followed up and I saw then that nothing had really changed, nothing had improved. So now I'm here today to talk about a program that the U.S. Marshal did in Ohio. It was called Operation Homecoming. And the efforts were to target all of these missing persons, missing children, to try to bring them home. So this is somewhat of a fast forward, 1 year look ahead, and where are we now in the state of Ohio? So Rocco said he's doing well, and he's shocked that I haven't heard about Sebastian Rogers. Almost every true crime YouTuber talking about it. It's a huge controversial case, and I should look him up. Okay, I will. I will look him up. Um, I'm fairly busy. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to catch everything. And missing persons is not my interest. Um, Policing, the forensics part, the mindset of criminals, I would say police procedure, those types of investigative resources, tools, that's more so my interest. Missing persons is not a category that I would actually seek out. I have done a few cases on kidnapped children. In all of those cases, these children are deceased. So I'm looking at the cases um, with the close attention of, is this a predator? What happened in the case? Is there a pattern? Are they a deviant where they are a serial assaulter, etc.? I do not have an interest in missing person cases. The reason that I worked on this Ohio level of missing persons is because of the number. It was clear to me that something was going on in the state of Ohio, and I think structurally there needed to be some major improvements, some changes in sharing the information, getting the word out, identifying, highlighting that into the community. What can we do? How can we help? Can we bring some resources? Can we bring some structure? Can we bring some consistency throughout these cities and the county? Can we get pictures of the missing persons? Can we make sure that the missing person flyers are updated? Even when you locate someone, can we make sure they're taken out of the database so we can narrowly focus on the kids that are presently missing? There were a lot of issues, and you can go back and check out those past two videos. Um, but again, I'm here today to just bring you a little bit more detail of what's happening in the state of Ohio and how the U.S. Marshal, they have brought some federal support to the state to try to capture what's going on, identify the children that are missing, and then try to recover them, return them back to their families. And I want to highlight that because I think it's a great thing as I am trying to bring somewhat of an update to what was happening about a year ago in the state of Ohio with all of those missing children. It was very shocking. I think I put out some shorts just showing their faces, the ones that we had pictures for, to see, hey, does anyone know or have seen these missing children in Ohio? Like, I'm trying to highlight this so that people know that this is a problem, and maybe we can bring some resources to the state to try to assist local law enforcement in combating the needs of how do we get these kids back? How do we create a organized really partnership with the different cities and counties within the state of Ohio to also disseminate the missing persons information better, but also the efforts to try to return these children that we can find back home. So, with that endeavor, um, I'm going to bring you some great news, right? They were able to find and return 32 missing children back home. I think it's just, I think it's great. I think it's a little overwhelming because you want to see some services had where families can get the help, the support, and some of the resources that they need. And is not only knowing the names of the children and the faces, but also putting people on the ground, knocking on doors, having flyers, sharing this information online, accurate information, pictures to try to assist. Because, in all honesty, some of these missing persons, missing children, they may be in the state of Ohio still. However, if there is any type of labor or trafficking going on, they may not even be in Ohio. And that's why it's important for the state to have a formal organized system and also be able to share that information with other states. That's a Midwest state. You want to be able to share that information with surrounding states, Minnesota, Kentucky, Michigan, etc., Indiana, because are those kids possibly potentially trafficked very close in another state? I don't know, but can we get a more organized, more structured system to ensure that the information is accurate, it's getting out, not just printed locally, but also in surrounding cities and counties. And then, of course, we want to share that information nationwide to try to get some of these kids back home, the ones that we can get back home, because in all honesty, I know that they're able to get some of these cases closed. Maybe the child comes back home, maybe the child is found alive, or we have cases where the child is found deceased, but they are returned. They are able to get a match for DNA, their identity, because remember, these are minors, so they're not going to have an ID. If they're in another state, they're in another county, they still have to try to figure out if there's even a missing persons um, file for that child, right? And if they're out of city, out of county, out of state, that is a little bit harder. So there's a lot of effort for the families that they have to pull this together. They have to work in tandem with law enforcement and some of the other organizations that assist in these efforts when their child is missing. Because the sad part of really what happens in these cases, how do you pursue a missing person, right? There is no TV show anymore to just disseminate the faces. I remember when I was younger, the missing person picture would be on the milk carton. You don't have that anymore. Sometimes you do have Amber Alerts, but you can't get that in every case. And the voluminous number of missing persons in the state of Ohio, I don't even know. Like, would they need to have some type of publication? Um, I don't know how you disseminate it with the number of missing persons. And this is a issue also on the local level. You know, what officers are dedicated to going and kind of interviewing people, checking in at the school, trying to locate friends, family. Who was the last person to see them? When was that? Where was that? What were they wearing? Um, it's a Herculean task. In most police departments, they have limited resources. They do. I mean, people don't want to probably tell you the truth about it, but no officer is going to look for someone typically a long time. They may try to do some searches initially. And again, you want to work with in tandem with the families. However, once you put those flyers out, once you knock on those doors, once you interview friends, family, um, maybe if they're in school, and try to get at least a report that you can put together and you get that missing persons report, there's not a lot that you can do. Of course, you could share a tip line and you can encourage the community through maybe a press conference, but how many of those are you going to have if you're having so many children going missing every day in the state? It's really it really exposes again a approach that I feel, we have to identify problems earlier on, um, as parents, and also some of the structured systems like school. If that child isn't coming to school, if they're having problems at home, if friends know, sometimes the friends know they're going to run away. They're saying they're going to leave, or they met somebody online, and you know, you have to do the work. Usually, a case doesn't just get solved on its own. I mean, it happens, but rarely. That's not how it works. Sometimes you have people that go missing and you never find them. You never find out what happened to them. Unfortunately, you don't recover their body, because usually after some time you just have remains, bones, and that's if they're discovered, if they're not buried, etc. So um, it's really a lot to this. And I know in my first two videos, I didn't talk about all of this background information about the missing. But today, when I was thinking, I said, you know what? Maybe I need to talk about that a little bit more in detail, because I don't know of a platform that someone takes on to really discuss missing children. Like, where do you go? We don't have anything that you could do either statewide or federally that just shows you missing children. Maybe we can use more of these social networks like Facebook and maybe Instagram or X, to kind of disseminate these pictures and names, and this is what they were wearing, this is where they were. But we still don't have anything that's organized. A organized system is what I am suggesting, that is created on a federal and state level for the sharing of information, not just to law enforcement, but to the overall masses of the citizenship here. Because honestly, like, this name Sebastian Rogers comes up, it's a lot of states. And again, my interest is not even missing persons, but that name doesn't connect to me at all. But it's just with all of the news, the mass shootings, the murders, and sometimes we forget about these missing kids. And again, once those first couple of days go by, there may be a new missing kid or a different focus. You have to turn your attention to new crimes and new things that's coming up. And sometimes I think um, we get these type of cold cases later in life where the person was missing. We couldn't really have any leads or any real way to follow up. And now later, things get discovered, uncovered, and unfortunately, we find out that that person is no longer here, or we've had some real serious cases where another person pretends, takes on the identity of a missing person. I mean, it's been some wild, wild cases. We've even had international cases where people have stolen the identity of a missing child in the U.S. and they purport to be them and they're not. So, thank goodness for DNA testing now. That's very popular, inexpensive, to kind of filter that out before you have that person reunite with the family. But rarely do we have cases where we have a missing child and they return home many years later, because most missing children, they're not being raised, reared, and cared for by their abductor. Um, You just really don't get that. And I know there have been a few cases, but they weren't in a healthy way. They were being assaulted. They may have even reared children by their assaulter, and just terrible things happening to them, violence and things like that. So Rocco says, what happened to them? Yes, the billboards do help. Rocco is saying that they were able to raise $22,000 for billboards. But in all honesty, I think billboards are great for that community where it happened. But a lot of the kids now are not, when they're abducted, they're not being kept in the same state. They are trafficked out. Now, if you have someone that is a serial assaulter, kidnapper, now they may stay in a area and offend, reoffend, and do it again and again. But some of these older children, not smaller, younger kids, but some of the older ones, like teenagers, some of what's happening is some of the online dating, online matchmaking, whatever you want to call it, where they're meeting someone online and then they willingly leave home and something bad happens to them through connecting, meeting. Sometimes they're not talking to someone that is of appropriate age, meaning, for example, if you're 12 or 13 and you may think you're befriending someone that is your age, but in reality, that person is an adult. And when they meet, something bad may happen, like an assault or unaliving. So, it's just a lot of things going on, and I want some more effort put behind these missing persons flyers and investigations, and that's why I'm highlighting them today. Again, this is not something that I typically talk about, but because there seemed to be a great need to highlight what was going on in the state of Ohio, I did take that on last year. So I'm going to get to my first article. It's on usmarshals.gov. So again, the U.S. Marshal Service, they got involved, they partnered up with the state of Ohio, and they were able to start a program to try to recover some of these missing children. It's called Operation Homecoming. I have provided the links on the Hidden Horror Facebook page, so please check it out if you're interested. I think it's really just very commendable for justice and for trying to help assist these families and other local law enforcement to try to recover some of these missing children, because the numbers in Ohio was really, really high. Okay, so this was released, this press release was released on September 9th, 2024. It was by Ann Murphy, Public Affairs Officer for the Northern District of Ohio in Cleveland, Ohio. U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott is pleased to announce the successful conclusion of the U.S. Marshals led Operation Homecoming. Operation Homecoming was focused on the safe recovery of missing children from the Akron and Summit County areas. The operation was a joint endeavor between the United States Marshal Service, the Akron Police Department, and the Summit County Sheriff's Office. Over the course of 3 weeks, from August 19th to September 6th, members of the Missing Child Unit worked with Akron Police and Summit Sheriff's deputies to identify missing and endangered children in their area. During that time, law enforcement was able to safely recover and locate 32 missing children. The children ranged in age from 13 to 18 years old. So again, these are not little children. These are teenagers, almost young adults, right? So I think that's really, really great. And, where were these children? Where were they? How long were they there? What kind of things did they go through? How were they handled? How were they cared for? What did they do to survive? Did they live on the street? Like, I have a ton of questions, because we need to learn, how are they leaving? Are they a runaway? Are they tricked into leaving? Are they forced into leaving? Are they threatened into leaving? Is it something that they did online? We need to know the why so we can understand how we can combat that to reduce this high number of missing children. So I'm going to continue. And I did want to say, I think it's really unfortunate that they concluded the Operation Homecoming. However, I believe they would have given them some information, some resources, some tips, some help to support this endeavor on trying to recover these missing children. So I'm sure they gave them some great tools to do the work and continue the work. Okay. And I'm sure they're going to be able to create this network where they can reach out to the U.S. Marshal Service if they need additional help, support, advice, instruction, etc. Okay. I do want to say that. U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott stated, dedicated work by our missing child unit, along with Akron Police and the Sheriff's Office, have made an incredible impact in the safe recovery of these children. The U.S. Marshal Service will continue to dedicate its time and resources to the safe recovery of missing children in our communities throughout Northern Ohio. So, I say bravo. Yes, partnership, sharing those resources, being a support. We need that. We need that a lot more, okay? So I'm going to continue. I'm proud of the excellent work of my team and of our partner agencies in this very important operation, said Sheriff Fatherly. It is a great example of how collaboration makes us stronger and helps us to better serve and protect our community. Some of the missing children were recovered in the Akron area, others in Cleveland, and one child reported missing by the Akron Police Department in April of 2022 was safely located in Washington State. Akron Police Chief Brian Harding added, the partnership and devoted work by law enforcement in this operation directly led to the safe recovery of the missing child located across the country. So how did they find these kids, right? I want to know. Were these children on social media? Were they able to trace them that way? Did they have cell phones? Were they able to trace their location? Were there tips? Like, please tell me, how did they locate 32 missing children? Where were they at? Were they in the state? Because they're saying they were able to find one as far as Washington State, and then they have one that was missing as long as April of 2022. That's a long time. That's more than 2 years. So how did they survive? What were they doing? Who was taking care of them? Were they taking care of themselves? Like, I just need to know. I want more details, okay? But let me continue. Law enforcement officers work closely with Summit County Children's Services to ensure that resources were available to the children that were recovered, especially those who have been missing for a longer period of time. So I do want to address this. The children that were gone longer, you have to be very sensitive to what they may have encountered, experienced. There may be some social services needs. How do you bring them back into the home? Are they going to have some emotional issues. How are they going to come back into the fold with so much time gone? What happened to them? What did they experience? What did they see? Are they okay? What are the needs that they presently have? How can we support them? Because I feel that if the time is just a short period of time, you may be able to recover the child, bring them back into the home, and maybe with some services and limited services, they can kind of be okay. However, with the children that are gone for the extended period of time, I think you're going to have some more issues, greater issues, more difficult issues, probably more challenges, and that transition could be a little bit harder for them. Okay. So this says anyone with information concerning a wanted fugitive, and you can contact them. Okay. So that's the first article. I have one more article. So that was a press release from the U.S. Marshal Service. So I have a local article detailing this a little bit more. It's by news5cleveland.com. It's dated September 9, 2024. It's written by Tracy Carlos and is titled Operation Led by Marshals Brought Home 32 Missing Kids. Operation Homecoming brought more than 30 missing children home. The detail, led by U.S. Marshals, focused on the safe recovery of missing children from the Akron and Summit County areas. The operation was a joint endeavor between the U.S. Marshals Service, the Akron Police Department, and the Summit County Sheriff's Office. From August 19th to September 6th, members of the USMS Missing Child Unit worked with Akron Police and Summit Sheriff's deputies to identify missing and endangered children in their area. During that period, police found 32 missing children. Those children ranged in age from 13 to 18 years old. U.S. Marshal P. Elliott said, dedicated work by our missing child unit, along with Akron Police and the Sheriff's Office, have made an incredible impact in the safe recovery of these children. The U.S. Marshal Service will continue to dedicate its time and resources to the safe recovery of missing children in our communities throughout Northern Ohio. I'm proud of the excellent work of my team and of our partner agencies in this very important operation, said Summit County Sheriff Candy Fothery. It is a great example of how collaboration makes us stronger and helps us to better serve and protect our community. Some of the missing children were recovered in the Akron area, others in Cleveland, and one child reported missing by the Akron Police Department in April 2022 was safely located in Washington State. Deputy U.S. Marshal Vinnie Piccoli heads up the USMS Missing Child Unit. He said children have been found in horrible situations. This is what I was getting to, y'all. This is what I was trying to uncover. He said children have been found in horrible situations. Well, please tell me more. Tell me more. Guns, drugs, whatever the case may be, people that been hanging out with older males, older females, where there's been trafficking involved, prostitution involved. So we've removed kids from situations like that, said Piccoli. Let me repeat, because this is what I was trying to get to. Guns, drugs, they're hanging out with older males and females, some trafficked, prostitution. That's what's been going on. Okay? We need to know that. We need to know that if our child steps out into the world, leaves home, leaves the protection of home, of family, walks away from school. This is what they're facing. They may be with the older male or female. Drugs and guns may be involved. They may be trafficked, and of course, they may be used in prostitution because that person, what are they getting out of taking a child, abducting a child? It's a form of money, right? What did I say? Slave labor or labor? Sex trafficking. It's all ways to make money. It's criminal. Um, it's really a dark world. It's within a city, it's within a community, and it is a dark, evil world. And we don't want any kid to experience that. And that's where the concern lies when a child is gone for a longer period of time. Again, what did they say? They're going to need more services because what is the likelihood that they were drugged, that they were threatened, they were coerced into doing something they didn't want to do? It may involve prostitution, it may have involved some type of labor. That's the reality. That's what I'm trying to uncover in a way by identifying not just that these children are missing, but what happens when they go missing. And then when we don't have systems in place to help identify them, to find them, to recover them, there's a breakdown. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you, I want to keep our children safe, protected, unharmed, uninjured. And this is something that we need to know about. And when we're out, we need to be able to identify if we see something that doesn't look right. Call the police, call the authorities, try to get that child some help because you know what? They could be one of these missing children. They could be one of these children that are trafficked, are forced into some type of labor. You know, it's up to all of us to keep our community, our neighborhood safe. So let me continue. Law enforcement officers work closely with Summit County Children's Services to ensure that resources were available to the children who were recovered, especially those who have been missing for a longer period. So again, just like the other article, you know, they may need additional services, more intensive services. They may have a harder time transitioning into home, and they may even have to go into some type of system, foster care. I don't know. Um, Akron Police Chief Brian Harding added the partnership and devoted work by law enforcement in this operation directly led to the safe recovery of the missing child located across the country. In 2015, federal lawmakers expanded the U.S. Marshals Authority to search for missing children. So for many years, that was not a responsibility of the U.S. Marshals, but I really like that they did that because they may have some resources, especially federally, you know, where crossing states. This is what comes into mind when you have someone that goes missing. They're not even in the state where they reside, where they live, where they're from. They're not even in a community that they're familiar with. So while we're posting flyers and knocking on doors, right in that community, that child is not even there. That child's in another state. That child has been trafficked, abducted, kidnapped, and maybe even unalived. Okay. So that's where it's important that we do have some federal authority in these cases because we're seeing that more and more children are taken out of state. It is a way to conceal them, conceal their identity. It makes it harder when they're out of state because that information may not even be known. And that's why it's important to have a federal database, not just a state or local database. We need to share information, share those pictures, current pictures, not just the names, because how hard is it to remember a name? And again, the numbers in the state of Ohio was so high, it would have been very hard to remember these names because it was just so many children. Now, I do want to share the video that was provided in this article. So I'm going to share my screen. And this video, I think, is about 4 minutes long. So we'll watch that together.
More than 30 children who were missing have been found by a specialized U.S. Marshals unit focusing on missing children.
Incredible story here. These are children that may have fallen through the cracks, children that perhaps nobody is looking for. News 5 anchor Tracy Carlos went along with U.S. Marshals for Operation Homecoming.
U.S. Marshals on the air.
As the sun comes up in Summit County, a U.S. Marshals-led team of law enforcement officers are already crisscrossing Akron. But this time, they're not looking for fugitives.
Because our main goal at the end of each day or with each case is to make sure that these kids are safe. Hello. Hi, ma'am.
They're searching for missing children instead.
When's the last time you talked to her? Trying to find a missing girl. She's been missing since... Are you friends? Like, you talk to her often? Are you friends with her? June of this year. Where'd they go when they ran away? No one's seen or heard from her. We just need to locate her, make sure she's safe.
It's called Operation Homecoming.
So that's why it's a concern for us, too. Do you know where she stays?
For several weeks,
We got a handful of case files here.
armed with the names of dozens of missing kids in Summit County.
Tried multiple different addresses for her, but we don't know if she's in Cleveland or Akron. Pulling up now. Once everybody's in the area, we'll put a knock in.
They've been knocking on doors
It's the marshal's office.
and asking questions.
If you could come to the door and help us, I appreciate it. Getting information from family, friends, associates that may lead to more information, may lead to another address.
Side door here and a door there.
Following a trail that they hope leads to finding a missing kid.
She definitely could know where she's at.
Ricky Life is the mother of 6. She told me a team that is laser focused on bringing kids home is needed.
From a parent's point of view, it's great, honestly, because if one of my kids went missing, I wouldn't know what to do.
No contact yet.
U.S. Deputy Marshal Vinny Piccoli heads up the Marshals Missing Child Unit.
Contact at the front door. Hi, ma'am.
It is a job that he is passionate about.
She's actively missing. A lot of these kids that are on these active lists throughout the Northern District of Ohio are kids that like nobody really is looking for.
This is the second time the U.S. Marshals Missing Child Unit has had an operation like this one. Last spring, they were able to locate 35 missing children.
We've located and recovered quite a bit of kids that were in terrible situations.
In 2015, Congress expanded the U.S. Marshals Authority to search for missing kids.
The U.S. Marshal Service are the best fugitive hunters in the world. You've covered story after story for us of some of those captures. So we're the best at finding people.
We're trying to help Akron find missing kids.
Last year,
It always hits home.
U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott established the Missing Child Unit here in Northern Ohio.
One, child that was missing in the Summit County area. Afterward, their parents sent me a photograph of them together with their daughter. So, it's times like that. It makes you feel good about the work you're doing.
Right now, Elliott told me there is no other task force dedicated to finding missing kids.
So they didn't sound like they didn't know who she's with.
And he has plans to expand the Missing Child
Like
Unit.
I said, it's been a while since I've even seen her.
Gotcha.
He says a team focused on finding the missing is needed.
It's astronomical the amount of missing people and missing children out there, in Ohio and throughout the country.
We're going to have the occupants here drive by the address.
For the teams knocking on doors, they don't always find who they're looking for every day. But when they do,
It's an opportunity to kind of interact with these kids and hope that you set them on the right path, get them in touch with resources that they may need.
and that may just change a life.
We're going to wait and see.
In Akron,
For one missing person, it's all worth it.
Tracy Carlos,
So we're going to see if we can get a good phone number for her, a location.
News 5.
A total of 32 kids between the ages of 13 and 18 were found, some in the Akron area, some in the city of Cleveland. One child reported missing by Akron police more than 2 years ago was safely located all the way in Washington state.
Okay, so I wanted you, to see the video, see the effort. It's like I said, it's a Herculean effort. It's like a lot of work. It's something that is needed. Can we create a department for missing children, missing, exploited, endangered children, because they really are very vulnerable if they decide to walk away from their home of safety, protection. And you know what? All homes are not safe. I'm not going to sit here and say, um, everybody is feeling safe, feeling protected, having a home that's free of violence, drugs, and things like that. However, I have to also, on the other side, balance this out with the idea that when you leave and you go into the street, into areas, um, and experience total independence, something most children, teenage age children, they're not capable of taking care of themselves. They're not capable of going into um, living as a homeless person, or maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe you think you're going to move in with someone else and that falls through, or the person that you met online is not the person you thought they were. It may not even be the person that you were talking to, things like that. And now you're facing different issues. So I definitely want to just acknowledge all of that. I want to thank um, the Akron Police Department, the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and of course, the United States Marshal Service for all of their efforts, all of their hard work. And I hope that they continue this effort and that something can be organized in the future to assist in finding these missing children across the country, and especially in areas like the state of Ohio, where there's just been a large number of missing children. So thank you for spending this time with me. I hope that you learned something from this, that you share this information, and that you please remember, stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends. Have a beautiful evening. Bye, everybody.